Hello, and welcome to our monthly webinar in Actio. And today we're going to talk about the AI ROI problem. Why strategy leaders can't measure what they're betting on. So we've been seeing so much investments, in the billions into AI, and each company also doing so many projects. But the ROI of these projects have been scrutinized and many times, if not most times, lacking, right? And this has been one of the leadership's most pressing problems, because if you let the AI wave go by and you do not get the productivity from it, you may fall behind. But if you bet on the wrong projects, or if you execute the projects, you can just be throwing money away, right? So this AI problem is something that is in the forefront of many leaders' thoughts and worries. We're going to dive into this matter today in our webinar. And for that, we have two special guests. One is Paulo Rabelo. He is an ex-consultant, ex-executive from a multi-billion-dollar company into strategy and strategy execution, turned AI entrepreneur. Welcome, Paulo. And we also have Yuri Morais. Yuri is our own CTO within Actio and has been leading many AI projects within Actio itself. Welcome, Yuri. Okay, so before we dive in, I just have some housekeeping issues that I'd like to get through our audience, especially those that are participating for the first time. If you have questions, feel free to put them on the chat. We'll try to address them throughout the talk. But if we can't address all of them throughout the talk, we will save some time in the end for the questions that you put in the chat. Questions or comments or anything that you'd like to contribute here to our conversation. Also, it would be very important to get your feedback by the end of this talk. So we will have a feedback form in the chat by the end of the talk. Please fill it in for us so we can improve on our webinars. And if you would like a certificate of participation, in the feedback form, you will have a question where if you answer positively, we will send you the certificate of participation. Okay? And finally, we have a community for strategy and risk professionals where the conversation goes on there, sharing network experiences and best practices, both in risk management and strategy execution, strategy management. So we're going to put up the links for both of these communities here in the chat. If you would like to participate, just click on the link and sign up. Well, let's dive in then. Before I ask here my panel of experts about AI ROI, I would like to ask you, our audience, do you have AI projects in your organization? So a pop-up must appear in your screen with the question and multiple answers where you can choose from. Yes, we have AI projects underway. No, but we're planning to. And no, and we have no plans to do that yet. This is just to get the temperature of our audience and see if how many of you actually have AI projects going on. Mateus, can you put up the survey for us? Something is going on, some technical issue apparently. Um, let's dive into the questions. I'll come back to this survey in a minute. So, Yuri, before we talk about the AI ROI problem, I think we should just get a broad view of what's going on in AI implementation in organizations in general. So I know you've just finished a graduate program in AI where you had contact with many companies, many professionals from different countries. And what is your perception of how are companies implementing AI in their own organizations? Can you give us this um, broad view of what's going on? Before you answer, I saw that the pop-up came up. Um, if you could answer here for us, do you have AI projects in your organization? So for now, 100% of our answers is yes. So companies are effectively implementing AI and have AI projects, ongoing AI projects in their organizations. Yuri, give us the landscape of how companies are implementing AI in their organizations.
Okay, thank you for inviting for this conversation here. And what I see in most of the companies, especially nowadays that AI is so the hype of all AI and many companies starting to try to adopt and to create projects related to this is very familiar that everybody have did an experimentation or something related to AI, but we can split these in three different approaches. I saw many companies starting by experimental approach. How can I say? It's the kind of using a AI tool for do a task, like using a chatbot or using a LLM like a ChatGPT or Claude to help to perform or to do a task or deliverable in the daily work, to increase the productivity by using a specific AI for generate an image or something like this. So this first approach or this first kind of use of AI is like more an experimentation that's something related to a established project. But that's the way how many companies usually starting to make contact with this new technology, and it happens with every time that a new technology appears and become a hype. Companies or employees start to do little experimentations in the daily works and the daily tasks, and to understand how the technology works and how can use these to improve performance or productivity. The second approach is kind of an evolution of the first one. This experimentation start to be used in a functional use case. So the company or the employees or an area, specific area, choose a functional use case and try to apply, starting to apply the AI to any specific purpose. Like I use the AI tools in marketing to create a blog post, to generate the image, to understand what the words are trends at this time in this moment, to measure effect in social network. So they are focused in specific use cases like marketing, sales, customer support to help customers to get a faster response when they open a ticket in customer support, or to help the software development team to have improve in the quality of the code in the code quality. There are many approaches, but this second approach is more related to functional use case. And the third one that I can mention is the more mature use of AI, is using AI embedded or using AI in a specific workflow or in a specific decision-making process, for instance. So the company understand pick a process. They are important or they are related to a decision-making process or to relate a specific strategy of the company, and they understand how AI can be included or embedded in this entire process to improve the results or to improve the productivity. So in this third is this more mature approach is more thinking and related to the company process and related to the strategic approach. So the companies are understanding what is the strategic objectives for this for the company in the next 3 months or the next year, and understand which process need to be improved or can be empowered with AI and embed the AI in the process, or and sometimes rethink all the process around AI. So if we're using if we are using a tool or doing this manually, how can rethink this whole process using AI embedded in this and put the human in the decision making and the most important part of the process.
So I understand that each step of the that you described increases the investment and risk and potential impact in the organization, right? So what you're saying that companies are learning how to go through these steps, starting with the first one with a lower investment and moving ahead as they gain confidence. That would be a very prudent approach, but we're still seeing lots of projects or initiatives that are ROI negative, right? Do you think this comes from or might come from companies jumping these steps and going straight to process change without going through a learning process?
Yeah, I think I totally agree because it's not necessarily an increasing of maturity inside of the organization. Sometimes the company are doing more investment in more investments in tools and to use an experimental approach. So they are investing more in releasing new technology and and new tools for the users. Without measuring the ROI or expecting a result without use a specific approach. So they keep it on the first step, doing the experimental approach, but increasing the investment. So it's not guaranteed that we're going to receive the return of this kind of investment without increasing the maturity and bringing the AI to the key process of the company. So many companies still between the first approach and the second one. Just a few are moving to the third approach that I mentioned.
Perfect.
And
Paulo,
that's why some companies, oh, sorry, just to complement, that's why some companies are are struggling with measuring ROI because they are not measuring the impact of use AI. They are more focused in measuring the usage of AI. Or how many user
Mhm.
has access to to the tools, or how many tokens are we using each month. So is not correlated the usage and the impact or the value captured by the usage.
Guilherme,
that's
just if I can add
go ahead.
one pattern that I see from this before we move on to the next question, but just a quick point. I think I've lived this problem from both sides of the table, right? So as you mentioned before, I was a consultant and operator for 15 years. And for the last maybe year, AI has been my bread and butter. And I'm in conversations every day with clients about this topic, right? And what I see as a pattern in general, your question was how are companies implementing AI? What I see very clearly is that the companies from all sizes, I was talking last month with a mid-sized tech company from Brazil, and their strategy for AI is they task one person, very smart guy, with no AI background, and gave them a mandate to find AR opportunities across the entire company. Alone, they didn't have any method, no budget frame, no success criteria was defined for that person. But this is just how most companies are implementing AI right now, right? And that's not so different. I was also talking to a company that's turning around 7 billion a year, an e-commerce giant, I could say. And their strategy is basically, and where they are in their AI journey is basically a similar point. They're starting it. ROI is not even on the radar yet, right? So I feel if the audience is not doesn't feel that they are in a similar path from the methodologies that Yuri described, I feel like they're not behind. I see that in companies, small, large, and very few examples of where it's going well. A lot of experimentation, uh, but very few have a clear company strategy into implementing AI.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that many companies have the goal to implement AI and not use AI to
Exactly.
get some gain, right? So the maybe the top-down directive is coming as we need to implement AI and not we need to increase productivity or we need to sell more or we need to reduce cost or
Yeah.
the end goal, right? Um,
Yeah, I would say what I've seen is that there's we talked to over 60 different companies on that topic between clients and partners. And what we see is there's a very clear path on how AI adoption, we call it the AI adoption curve, is split into three steps, right? The first one, we call it the excitement or fear, depends on who the person is. The excitement is where they first time they use a Claude or ChatGPT and they say, okay, everything is possible. I can do anything, right? And then there's a lot of excitement for the technology. They want to roll it out. They open the wallets and they want to make it happen. And then they just go on hiring people, hiring tools, paying for services, and that starts with the second stage, which we call the frustration phase, where they just see a lot of work being done and very little results coming out of that work. And I'm not even talking about ROI. I'm just seeing the perception of improvement from the teams, right? And then a lot of tools, nothing is results. I would say that that's where I feel most mature companies are right now on that second stage. When we talk about the third stage, I feel the companies choose one of two paths. Either they go for a conscious growth approach, where they have a deliberate process for implementing AI that is linked to strategy and is measured. And those are the companies that tend to have the most success. We can talk about a little bit more about that later. Or they scale down considerably their expectations for the topic and then limit their initiatives to basically rolling out a chatbot or an LLM.
yeah. So this is the crux of the matter, right? And uh, why? I would like you, Paulo, to dive deeper into this issue if you can, even bringing examples of things that you've seen of why are the uh, ROI on AI initiatives so low so far, right? This can
Right.
change and will probably change, but you talked a little bit about how they're measuring it, maybe measuring it by means and not ends, right? Not the ROI itself, but the AI adoption. But
Mhm.
could you go deeper into why AI initiatives have low ROIs?
Yeah. No, I think the research so far is unequivocal on that topic. AI ROI is below expectations, right? But we hear a lot of numbers. It's 95%, 40%, 80%. So I think it's good for us to start decoding what those different numbers mean. But they all point into a very similar direction, right? We see I have here 95% of the companies, according to MIT, revealed that they have seen no P&L impact post-pilot. So 95%, very consistent number, right? 80% uh, of a study that evaluated 65 cases saw that 80% of the companies failed to deliver what they promised as a value, which is 2 times what the normal software company would see when rolling out a project. Last one here, we have the S&P published a result where 42% are abandoning most of their initiatives, most of them. So it's a very, very clear direction that we see that ROI or return on investment on initiatives is failing, right? But what we see here is none of this research, if you go in detail about it, none of them are blaming the technology, saying the technology does not deliver results or they are not sufficient to fulfill the promises or the expectations. What they see is that the AI failure, both to implement and to achieve positive results from, comes from organizational reasons. And I see 5 main causes of where those problems occur, and I can bring a few examples from what we worked on. So I feel like the main one, the number one, is for sure the demand for AI starts wrong. I think Yuri hinted at it, but I've seen most of my clients, they reach out to me and say, we have a mandate from the CEO or from the board. We need to improve productivity by 30% using AI, right? So the goal set is we need AI. And with that, it's very hard for the company to translate that need and connect to strategy. We'll talk about strategy in a bit. But the second one is there's no methodology. So we've seen companies, okay, we want to have a clear roadmap into how we implement AI. Then they just send a blank PDF template or PowerPoint to the whole company and say, please fill in with your with what your business needs are or why we build AI. And then they call this a business case. But people are not trained. They don't know what they're talking about, how to measure. They don't know how to define value. They're either operators that understand really well their processes, or they're corporate people who don't understand the exact needs very clearly. So these are very limited results. And that connects really well with the third point, which is fluency. So if you ask somebody, what can you do with AI? And they don't talk the language of AI, they don't understand what the possibilities are. All of the solutions end up building a new MyGPTs on ChatGPT, or creating a chatbot that you can ask questions and it'll answer questions. So if the team does not have fluency on those, on the possibilities that AI can deliver, it's very hard for them to think of solutions for the problems. Even if they identify the problems correctly, it's very hard for them to come up with solutions that deliver positive ROI, right? So then the fourth one is obviously these are disconnected from strategy, right? There's a lot of very exciting. I was in December at an annual conference from one of the biggest airlines in the Middle East, and they're extremely excited about a chatbot that would respond with natural voice conversation. And it creates a lot of excitement because it's very impressive technology that people haven't seen before. But what they see is that was, in that specific case, it was completely disconnected from what the strategy of the company was, right? And that's also corroborated by research. So BCG had a study that he said that the winners of AI, they have 3 or 4 business cases that deliver really clearly on the strategy, versus the other losers that they classified that did not have success with the AI implementation, that have 6 or more, many of them over 40 ideas. So it's impossible for you to have focus on your strategy and run 40 different initiatives, right? And the last one is, I can think of a client that we work with. They called us because they wanted to read to improve their process for document validation. So in this client, they had 135,000 documents that they had to validate. They had a team of 250 people to execute that process. And they're struggling to reach the volume that they had to validate. They were only able to validate half of that document. So they asked us to help improve that process. But what we did is we looked at the workflow. And we saw, you don't need to automate this process that you have right now. Otherwise, you're just going to scale the problems that you have. What you need is a complete workflow. So it is, okay, we scrap what we do and let's rethink how do we deliver a document validated following the right specifications that your business require at the same cost. So what we ended up doing is we had an agreement with them. We build the system and we run the system and we charge them per document validated. And we're charging 1/10 of what it would cost before. So those are the kind of examples where you need to have process redesign tied to the technology. It's not standalone technology. It's not just process, and it's scaling the combination that works well. So I think just to wrap up, I feel like a lot of the initiatives we're talking about, why the ROI is so low. I feel that most initiatives, AI initiatives, are not really initiatives. They're just a tool purchase that people just wear a costume, put a costume on it, and dress it as a business case. But at the end of the day, they're just a tool purchase. They're not a true initiative focused on changing business processes.
So you talked about a lot here, and I think there are lots of good insights. One is strategy alignment, right? So just doing projects for the sake of it, if it's not pushing the company towards the strategy that they wish to go, it can add value for efficiency, but it also distracts from where you should be going. Second point is to have a very clear problem, a problem that you want to solve, and AI is able to solve it, right? Like the example you brought here, hundreds of thousands of documents that needed to be validated, and they're not able to do that. So that's a very specific, clear problem that can be solved with this particular technology, right? Yuri, what can you build on this or contribute to?
I totally agree with Paulo what he mentioned, and we are in contact with some clients, and the way they are using the main approach is more related to see the technology or AI itself as a tool that will be used in a part of the process, instead to understand it can be a step in the process. That makes a huge difference, because when you look to the technology as a tool, you're gonna plug this in the existing process and understand how just do it, how to use this and use the results and keep the process as the same. And when you rethink the process with the technology embedded in the process as a step in the process, you can create new possibilities to rethink the entire process, because AI give possibilities to do something 24/7, to increase the possibility to do analysis, to deal with a lot of documents and data at the same time, reducing these bottlenecks in process. But you need to rethink the process, because at the end we need to understand the output of AI in this specific step and put the human to take the decision. So it's important not to delegate the entire process or to expect to do end-to-end the process using AI and to automatize 100% of the process. So it's important to keep this in mind. And the multiple initiatives is another common mistake, because uh, everyone wants to improve the results. So every employee are looking, how can I do this better, or how can I improve the result, or can I do this in a more productive way? So they're using AI without a strategy or without a good project behind. In this kind of approach, increase the investment needs, because many employees start to require access to tools or to buy new tools to do a task, and without a clear expectation of result or which value this will add at the end to the company or to the area. So it's important to keep this in mind, not only using as a tool, but as a tool that is embedded in the process and connect with a strategic goal and opportunity, not
Okay.
only the usage itself.
So we talked some about why it's not working. I think we should talk what should we do to make it work, right? Before we do that, I'd like to ask a second question for our audience about who is using, or if our audience actually measures the returns on the AI investments. So a pop-up should appear for you guys. Do you measure, or how is the investments, right? That's the actual question. Everybody said that they are, they do have AI projects or initiatives. How has the return been on these initiatives? Can you guys help us answering here? And let's connect, or let's collect your opinions here as well. So we've had so far just two answers, strong and mixed results. Okay. While they answer here, I think we can start moving on. So 66% is mixed results, and just the one having clearly strong results for now. Yuri, what are the important factors that companies should take in consideration when rolling out AI initiatives? So we already established that the ROI is lower than expectation, and we talked about some of the whys. Now, what should companies do to maintain that high ROI, or to get high ROI on their investments in AI?
Okay, as we mentioned, we get a deep dive in the problem and what are the current situation in different companies. And I'd like to highlight some factors that these companies can take in mind to bring this strategic alignment and to starting to have some ROI in this AI projects. And for me, the first one and one of the most important ones is the strategic alignment. It's really important to have a clear vision about what is the alignment, the strategic alignment about of this project, of this adoption of AI, and what is the value expected, the company expected to add or to improve at the end. So it's for me, one of the key factors to get ROI improvements is related to understand how this AI initiative can be connected with the real business priority. Is not and not just the technology experimentation that we mentioned before. Other one is understand the use case and do a good prioritization. As Paulo mentioned, many companies are starting multiple projects at the same time, sometimes 40 initiatives, 30 initiatives, without a clear vision of prioritization. And once you have a strategic alignment defined, it's easy to do a use case prioritization. If you understand what's the main strategic objective of the company, you can see multiples projects and list a lot of different initiative. But it's really important is one a key factor to succeed, understand and prioritize a use case. So in these 40 possible project or initiative, what are the 5 ones that will real improve the company result or will deliver this strategic objective? And other important factors is data quality and integration. Sometimes you can use important workflow in the company, do a prioritization on that, but you don't have access to data with quality. The system are not integrated, so you're gonna have a lot of friction to implement AI in this specific project. So it's important when you list all the possible use cases and to do the prioritization, understand the level of maturity of the data quality and the integration of systems. So you can implement AI in the process, you understand that it will bring value and you can do the test and understand what the real impact that can generate. Otherwise, you're going to start the project of implementation and we will be stuck in, and start new initiatives to improve the data quality, do integrations before have a result of the main project. Um, other one is the governance and risk management. Understand how you're gonna governance this project and measure the risk, because you can it's hard to do a project for the first time using a key process in the company to a process that all the customers has contact with. And if this project didn't succeed, you have a problem with all the customers. So it's important take in mind this risk management before start a project. And Paulo also mentioned that another problem, and for me is a key factor that correlated, is the capability. You need to build the capability, train the employees, train the users to adopt. Uh, because although it's a common sense that AI is important nowadays, people are trying to study by themselves. It's important to bring knowledge to the customers, to the employees, sorry, and so they can understand how can adopt it in the process and understand what are the different types of AI, what kind of type of AI is more useful for each kind of job. So they will take better decision if you bring this capability to the company. So it's important to invest to bring knowledge and build this capability internally.
Okay. Very interesting. So you mentioned the four things, right? One, prioritization. So if you're doing 40 projects, surely some of them will not be strategically aligned or will have low ROIs by themselves, just because of the sheer number of projects you have. So shrink down to what's really important, right? Maturity, IT maturity level, let's call it like this: integration, systems integration, uh, reliability of the data and all that. So you're building an AI layer on top of what you already have, extracting data and using the data that you have. If that data is not good, you're probably gonna get, bad outcomes as well. So uh, that's another point. And you mentioned risk, right? Risk, assess the risk of what you're going to do in this initiative. I saw, I think last week, a news from, I believe it was Ford Motor Company, that fired a bunch of senior engineers because they would be substituted by AI. And the project failed, and they had to rehire everybody back because the production line was having serious problems, right? So assess the risk of the problem and measure your steps toward that. That you, in the last point that you talked about, is capabilities, right? It's not just a project. It's not just something that you're gonna start, middle, and finish. You have to have the capabilities to sustain that, right? Long term. So build your capabilities. Uh, Very interesting insights here. Paulo, anything to add here?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with everything that Yuri said. I think especially when the fluency side, we do spend on every one of our projects. We have a part of it that involves a fluency program, because we don't believe in AI built in specific labs, gate kept by specific groups. We do think that they need to be both top down, but also bottom up. And developing the fluency of your team is fundamental for that. But I just wanted to add one thing regarding diagnosis, because that's where we spend the most time in our projects. Where at Galion, and that's also the one that I see most companies skipping, which is having a good diagnosis and selecting the right initiatives. So good ROI starts with good selection of initiatives, right? Just some real numbers from how we work. We usually start with a general scan. We define or identify 15 to 30 initiatives. Yuri, do you still hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I think
I think
Guilherme has a
Guilherme dropped, but
problem.
I'll continue. But yeah, when we run a diagnosis in one of our clients, we try to define around 15 to 30 initiatives. We want them to be a long list, but then we only 5 to 10 make a final short list. And only one or two of them get to be built at the end. And I think that's important. We like to scan broadly, top-down strategy, bottom-up from people who live the process. We qualify these with rough numbers, so we don't want to have a full business case for 30 ideas. Only the winner needs to have a baseline defined, needs to have the concrete numbers, but we need to have directional idea of how much we expect from those different ideas. For me, the next step is the most important, is to define and prioritize with the business. So what we see is if, like I said, if it's coming from an AI lab within the company, and the business did not choose that initiative, they won't adopt it. And if they don't adopt, there is no ROI associated with them. So I think it's critical to prioritize with the business, and before building, have a very clear specification. Define for the winners for that one or two initiatives that you're going to build. I think it's very important that you define a baseline, define the metrics, have a clear line of what's going to be built and what is the finish line. How to win with that initiative. And so I think we don't know exactly what is. I don't think there is one operational model that's proven to be the best. And honestly, I distrust anyone who, I'm suspicious of anyone who says they have the model. But I think what I can say confidently is what's working now is the companies that concentrate their effort, they quantify the results before they build, and put the business in charge of that execution, are the ones who are succeeding the most.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, Paulo. So Guilherme had a technical difficulty, so he had to drop off, but I'll be leading this discussion. Okay. So next question is for you, Paulo. So how do you define a successful AI investment then? So how can organizations connect AI initiatives to their strategic objectives and business outcomes?
Yeah, I like to say that I have a definition that is very simple to say and very hard to do, right? The right AI investment for me is one that delivers the company strategy. That's simple, right? But obviously very complicated to execute. I think a successful AI implementation is not the one that delivers impressive technology, not the one with the highest adoption. I think Yuri mentioned that earlier today. I think the successful AI initiative or programs or investments are the ones that move the outcome of the company for the things that they already said that they need to deliver. Right? So the things the company cares about, and I think from there that everything else cascades. And I mean cascade because I feel it comes in three different layers, right? So we need to check: does that initiative move the strategic objectives in the direction that the company wants? The second one, does it deliver ROI? And ROI, there's very different measures of how to do. And what I see, CFOs have been a lot more critical about what they accept in terms of pilots. They're much more critical before adding money to initiatives, and they're killing pilots much faster than they were. And I think that's a very healthy discipline. Second one, I think, is does that initiative help drive the company in the direction of adoption, fluency, and culture? Does it help the company move into a direction where they're more literate on AI? They're more familiar with applying these technologies, because on a different level, it helps the company move the strategy in the longer term, right? And if you talk about longer term, I think the third one is do we have the capabilities built in to deliver the strategy in a longer period of 2 to 3 years, not on the 6 months that we usually use to evaluate other types of capex and investments, but looking through those three different lenses help us have a good understanding of what the actual success or failure is from that initiative.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add, Yuri?
Yeah, just to add, because mm, many companies has difficult to measure it and what to measure it and how to connect this with the strategy. So, just to give an example, for instance, if the company, one of the company's strategic objectives is related to improve the customer retention. So all the AI projects needs to be needs to be related to these strategic objectives. So we can list 10 types of usage of AI to improve the customer retention. And using Paulo example, list all of these and prioritize these based on risk, data maturity, and integrate software integration, capability of the employees to use the tools, and you can also measure different levels of AI. So you can measure the AI itself used by, in this example, to create an assistant for the support team. So you can you can measure the precision of answers, the level of automation, the level of scaling tickets and everything, but more related to operational. But at the end, we need also to measure the business impact of this project. So in this case, the business impact can be the churn. So the project is helping to reduce the churn at the end. The customer satisfaction is increasing. So it's important to get a ROI in a AI project, understand different level of metrics, and use this kind of approach to understand what's the business impact at the end.
Okay. Well, thank you, both of you for your time. So that concludes our questions. Is there anything that you want to add to our audience before we close this off? And also, audience, like if you have any question to our speakers, we'll be happy to answer them.
I can just final thing observation that I did, like I said before, working with AI, I was a consultant. I ran commercial excellence programs. I was an executive in performance and strategy execution. And what I see is that there's a lot of talk about this new discipline of AI. How do we do it? How do we tackle that initiatives? How do we measure, etc.? And what I see is that there is a lot of more similarities between what we are doing with AI now, with the work that we did before, than the problems. If you notice all the problems that we talk about here, they are not problems about technology. They're not problems specific to AI. They're all problems about strategy execution. So what I go back is the same discipline that made successful transformation, strategy execution, are still valid, and they still help a lot with the implementation of successful AI initiatives. And what we see with the research, there's a BCG research for transformation that showed basically the same numbers. Successful transformations start with 70% changes to people, 20% to data and algorithms, and 10% with technology. And I see the same way. We just changed the 10% on the end of that transformation. The technology is different, but the work we need to do with people, the work we need to do with algorithms and processes, what changes is how do we apply the technology. So what made transformations in the past successful, I think, will be very similar to what drives successful AI implementation for the upcoming 10, 20 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting insights. Thank you. And Yuri, is there anything that you want to add?
No, I think we mentioned all the key factors and the importance to measure correctly the initiatives to improve the ROI.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to both of you, and thank you for your audience for taking the time to participate in our webinar. So just before we close off, just wanted a quick reminder. We have a feedback form. Please help us, please fill this in. It will help us improve on our future webinars. And it is a series which we'll be doing like every month. So hopefully we'll see you next month on a different topic. Right? Look out on for our promotional material. It will be having another one in July. Okay. And is there anything else?
No, I just wanted to say if anyone who joined the webinar would like to keep conversation, I'm more than happy to be reached out by LinkedIn, or we could probably share the contacts later. But I'm Paulo Rabelo on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to continue that conversation and hear what your thoughts are on the topic. So please feel free to reach out by any different formats.
Okay. Well, so as Paulo mentioned, so feel free to reach out to him, Yuri, or even Guilherme, for if you're interested in continuing the conversation. And thank you all.
Thank you.
See you
Bye-bye.
next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.